Welcome to the deep dive. We get you smart, fast.
You're here for the essence, not the fluff.
Exactly. And today, we're looking at something pretty special. The IWC Pilot's Watch Performance Chronograph Perpetual Calendar Digital Date Month.
Quite a name, and our source material sounds, well, really enthusiastic about it, like immediately impressed.
Oh, absolutely. It jumps right out. The source calls it a banger right away.
Okay, that sets a tone.
For sure. You've got this black ceramic look, which turns out to be Ceratanium. We'll get into that gold touches texture dial.
And then the big hitters, perpetual calendar, digital display.
Right. The source was hooked just seeing it. But the real booyakasha moment, as they put it, was getting hands-on. That confirmed everything.
So the mission for this deep dive is basically to unpack why. What makes this thing tick, both literally and, figuratively.
Precisely. Pull out the key stuff from this really complex, really visually striking watch.
Okay, so let's start with that initial excitement. What exactly caught the eye first?
Well, it was definitely the whole design package, the bold look.
That black and gold.
Yeah, that contrast. Black Ceratanium, gold accents, very powerful. Plus that texture dial, almost like asphalt, they said.
Gives it some depth.
Definitely. And then, it's not just a chrono. It's the perpetual calendar, digital date, and month. That's serious watchmaking.
It does sound like a lot happening on one watch, which naturally brings up size, right? How does it actually wear?
Good question. The source mentions it looking like a potential monster at first glance.
I can see why. What are the specs?
It's 43 millimeters wide and 16.5 millimeters thick, which is substantial.
Yeah, 16.5 is pretty thick.
The author gets that. But, and this is key, you have to consider what's inside.
The automatic chronograph movement.
Right, and that stacked disk digital perpetual calendar mechanism, that takes up space.
Sure, that kind of complexity often means thickness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the source even points out, hey, some simpler automatic watches are just as thick, so perspective helps.
Fair point. So did it feel huge on the wrist then?
Surprisingly, no. Not according to the source. Even on a fairly average, 6.75-inch wrist, it apparently felt comfortable.
Really?
Yeah, not a juggernaut. They credit the short, curved lugs, mainly.
Ah, the lug design, crucial for wearability.
Totally. Prevents that awkward overhang. Plus, the case material itself helps.
Right, the Ceratanium. Let's talk about that. It's not just standard ceramic, is it?
No, it's IWC's own thing, a special titanium alloy they introduced back in 2017.
And how do they make it black and scratch resistant?
Well, the source jokes about alchemical methods and really hot fire,
Yeah.
but it's a specific heating process.
Okay, so specialized treatment. What are the benefits?
You get the lightness of titanium, which is great for comfort.
Especially on a bigger watch.
Exactly. But you also get the scratch resistance of ceramic and that deep black color, kind of like DLC, but baked right into the material.
So light, tough, and black all the way through. Sounds ideal for a pilot's watch.
Pretty much. Resilience without the weight penalty. It really fits the purpose.
And it's not just the case, right? The bracelet uses it too.
That's right. The bracelet is also full Ceratanium. Gives it that unified look.
And there's something special about the clasp too, I gather.
Oh, yeah. This is a nice touch. A built-in microadjust system right in the clasp.
Ah, very practical. How does that work?
Super simple, apparently. You just push the IWC logo on the clasp.
And it slides.
Yeah, lets you adjust the length across 7 little steps or detents. You can fine-tune the fit.
Perfect.
Right.
And you can do it while wearing it.
Which is great, if your wrist swells a bit during the day.
That's a feature you usually pay extra for or find aftermarket. Nice to see it integrated.
Definitely. The source mentioned it was an aftermarket thing for the Engineer before, so a definite upgrade here. Hopefully we see more of it.
Yeah, seems like a crowd pleaser. Okay, let's shift to the dial. Lots going on there visually.
For sure. The source really liked the contrasts. You've got the polished ceramic bezel insert.
For the tachometer.
Right. And that contrast with the matte Ceratanium case, and also that textured asphalt-like dial base we mentioned.
Creates different layers of finish.
Exactly. And then the gold markings just pop against all that black. The source even called it an unofficial John Player special colorway.
The black and gold F1 cars. I can see that. Classic look.
Totally. But with all those elements, especially the perpetual calendar discs overlapping, was legibility an issue?
Good question. The source admitted having a slight worry initially, just looking at photos.
Yeah, sometimes photos don't capture it well.
But in person.
Apparently it works really well. IWC designed the digital registers to look kind of like spinning propellers.
Ah, a nod to the pilot theme.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And crucially, the numerals have these big gold rings around them.
Makes them stand out.
Yeah, makes them super legible, according to the source. It's a modern take, but still connects to that aviation vibe. Clever stuff.
So form and function working together there. Were all the indicators equally well received?
Not quite. The source pointed out a couple of things down at 6 o'clock that weren't perfect.
No. What were those?
Well, the running seconds hand. It's a double-ended hand, apparently described as annoyingly unclear.
Hard to tell which end is which.
Seems like it makes getting a precise read difficult. And then there's the leap year disc.
What about it?
It's there, but it doesn't have the same sort of vent-in cover design as the date and month discs.
So an aesthetic inconsistency.
Yeah, the source felt it kind of broke the pattern. Would have looked cleaner otherwise. Minor points, maybe, but noticeable on a watch like this.
Sure, details matter at this level. How does this whole dial layout stack up against other complicated watches, like, say, a Patek Chrono Perpetual?
Interesting comparison. The source notes that on something like a Patek 5270, the chronograph often feels like the main event, with big subdials.
Right, very traditional layout.
But IWC went a different route here. They put the 60-minute and 12-hour chrono counters together in one register up at 12 o'clock.
Consolidating the chronograph display.
Exactly. Which seems to give more visual weight to the perpetual calendar, displays the digital date and month.
So prioritizing the perpetual calendar.
Seems like it. They also specifically didn't stack the calendar and chrono functions, which you see sometimes, like on a Breitling Navitimer B19 mentioned in the source.
Stacking can sometimes compromise legibility, right?
It can, yeah. So IWC kept them separate. The result is the perpetual calendar really is the star here.
Makes sense. And reading the chronograph itself?
Apparently, it's super easy. Almost like reading a second time zone display because it's all in that one register. A different way of doing things.
Okay, let's peek under the hood. The movement driving all this.
That would be IWC's in-house caliber 89802.
In-house, okay, based on an existing movement.
Yeah, it's built on the foundation of the caliber 89800. That one first showed up in the IWC Da Vinci 3761.
So it has a bit of history.
Definitely. And variations of that base movement have been used all over IWC's lineup. Engineer, Aquetimer, Pilot, Portugueser, Da Vinci.
Wow, okay, so it's a pretty important caliber for them. Versatile.
Hugely important. The source definitely ranks it among their most impressive, technically. It's clearly a reliable workhorse architecture for them.
And the specs on this 89802 version, power reserve, complexity?
Pretty solid. You get a 68-hour power reserve.
Decent. Almost 3 days?
Yep. And complexity-wise, we're talking 474 components.
Wow. That's a lot of parts.
It is. Just for the perpetual calendar, you need 5 different discs. 2 for the date, 2 for the month they're concentric, and 1 for the leap year.
5 discs just for the calendar. Okay.
And typical of IWC's perpetual calendars, it's all set at the factory. All adjustments are done just using the crown.
So despite the complexity, it's user-friendly to operate.
Exactly. Set it and forget it, mostly. User-friendly complexity, you could say.
A good way to put it. So summing up the overall impression, still enthusiastic, and the all-important price?
Enthusiasm definitely held strong. The source admits the design is bold, maybe too much for some people's taste.
It's not subtle, is it?
Not at all.
Yeah.
But they personally loved that in-your-face aspect. And again, they circle back to Ceratanium.
Making the size manageable.
Right. Crucial factor.
Right.
Now, the price tag for all this tech and material innovation,
Brace yourself.
maybe little. The IWC Pilot's Watch Performance Chronograph Perpetual Calendar Digital Date Month is priced at $81,900 USD.
81.9. Okay, yeah, that's definitely high-end horology territory. A serious piece.
No question.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, what are the main things for our listeners to take away?
I think it's about this intersection of bold design, technical prowess, and material science. You've got a visually dominant pilot's watch.
Where the digital perpetual calendar is clearly the hero feature, and it's designed to be super legible.
Right. Then you have the innovative Ceratanium, which is key to both the look and the feel, the wearability.
And practical touches, too, like that microadjust clasp, despite all the internal complexity.
Exactly. It makes you think, though, how do brands like IWC balance that really strong aesthetic statement with, the functional needs of a high-end watch?
Yeah, and what does shifting a classic complication like the perpetual calendar to a digital display really mean for how we experience timekeeping? Is it just modernizing or something more?
Good questions. And maybe what does owning and wearing a watch this complex actually offer the person beyond just, telling the time and date? Something to ponder.